All praise, glory, and honor is most certainly due to the Most High. The God of the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and peace to you in the name of Jesus. This is your brother Elisha Israel of the household of faith, and I count on you with blessing each and every single time that I can come before you to preach the word of God. And never do I count it as a light thing to do so. And the title of today's lesson, brothers and sisters, is the Cup of Iniquity. Again, that title is the Cup of Iniquity. You know, one thing the Lord will do is that He will give you a moment. He will give you some space to get it together, to repent, and then He will bring, if not, then He will bring forth judgment upon you, and He will do that to the nations. I want to pick it up in Psalms, the 9th division, because He's shown this time and time again. But here, the psalmist says something that really we should take heed to, that the nations should understand. This is Psalms, the 9th chapter. Excuse me. In verse 20, he says, well, verse 19, he says, "Arise, O Lord, let not man prevail, let the heathen be judged in thy sight. Put them in fear, O Lord, that the nations may know themselves to be but men." You know, we're just men. Even the nations, as strong as a nation can become, it can become strong, and in its strength increase its arrogance. But it really needs to understand, nations need to understand, as people, individuals need to understand that we be but men, and that there's a creator who created all that we should serve and obey and give honor to. It tells in another place, it said, "It is time for thee to work, O Lord, for that made for thy law." But let's go to Genesis, the 15th chapter, just to see an example of how, you know, when a nation gets to a certain point of sin, there's no turning back. This is Genesis, the 15th chapter. I'm going to pick it up at verse 7. Genesis, this is Abraham, the father of faith, as he's called, and he sees a vision. It says, "And he said unto him," I'm in verse 7, Genesis 15:7, "And he said unto him, I am the Lord that brought thee out of Ur of the Chaldees to give thee this land to inherit it." So now he told Abraham to come out, walk before me, and be thou perfect. And where is he coming from? He was coming from Ur of the Chaldees. He was coming from southern Babylonia. He was coming from a place of false worship. He was coming from a situation where his forefathers worshipped falsely. But he was called out. He said, "Come out and walk before me and be thou perfect. And I'll make a covenant with you." He made a covenant with God. God manifested himself unto Abraham. So he said, "I am the Lord that brought thee out of Ur of the Chaldees to give thee this land to inherit it." All right. So he said, and he said, "Lord God, whereby shall I know that I shall inherit it?" And he said unto him, "Take me an heifer of 3 years old, and a she-goat of 3 years old, and a ram of 3." Excuse me. "And a ram of 3 years old, and a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. And he took unto him all these, and divided them in the midst, and laid each piece one against another. But the birds divided he not. And when the fowls came down upon the carcasses, Abraham drove them away." Talking about Abraham, this is before his name was changed. And it says, "And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram. And lo, and horror of great darkness fell upon him." Now he sees something. That what he sees is his progeny. He sees those that were of him, that before they enter into nationhood, they are in Egypt. And they are growing, but they are suffering. So it says, "And he said unto Abram, Know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs." Remember, they went into the land of Egypt during the days of Joseph, and they dwelt in the land of Goshen. And he says, "And shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. But they caught hell while they were there. They were put in bondage while they were there, just like we were put in bondage here." So it says, "And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterwards shall they come out with great substance." So he said that nation, he was going to judge them for that. Then he says something else. He says, "And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace. Thou shalt be buried in a good old age." I mean, I'm showing you something that's beyond you. Then he said, "But in the 4th generation, they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full." So now he's showing what's going. That's how you know the word of God is true. He's showing Abram or Abraham what's to take place in the future But then he said, but this is beyond you, right? Not just future in your life, this is beyond you. You're gonna be buried. Okay? And he said, but your seed is gonna raise up and they're gonna become a mighty nation. He said, but the cup of it, it's gonna be a while. He said, but the cup of iniquity has not reached its brim. Let's go to Deuteronomy the 7th chapter. Because now this people have been delivered from Egyptian bondage. The Lord poured these plagues out on Egypt, just like He's gonna pour plagues out on this world when He returns. See, He do the same. He don't have to change. Jesus Christ is the same yesterday and today and forever. Alpha and Omega, beginning and the end, the first and the last, the same yesterday and today and forever. He doesn't have to change. So if you want to know what He's going to do, look at what He did. So just like He brought Egypt down to his knees, He's going to bring this world down to his knees. Just like He brought Jericho down, and He said, take the city. Behold, the kingdoms of this world are going to come to the kingdom of our Lord and His Christ, and He shall reign forever and ever. So it says, Deuteronomy 7:1. It says, and when the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land whither thou goest to possess it, and had cast out many nations before thee. See, so He's telling Moses at this time, what's going to take place. And He's telling him that, hey, some nations that are there, even these people, Israel inherited their labor. They dug well. They did all these things in this land, just like if you move into a house that's fully furnished. Okay, so now, but He's telling them, He says, these nations are going to be cast out. He says, and listen to who He names. He said the Hittites and the Girgashites. Because He said, when the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land whither thou goest to possess it, and had cast out many nations before thee. Remember that they were told that they were going, Abraham was told that they were going to be a nation. And He said He's going to cast these nations out. It says the Hittites and the Girgashites and the Amorites and the Canaanites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than thou. He said he talked about the Amorites. We read in Genesis. That's not a coincidence. He cast these nations out. See, even when you look at the sons of Ham, even they have had even time to rule. And then, like Ham had his time. When you talk about Mizraim, when you talk about Ethiopia or Cush, when you talk about these mighty nations, right? And then they're being brought down. When you look at the Semitic nations, or from Shem, how they rose and then they were cut down. Then you look at the sons of Japheth and how they even rule today. And when the time of the Gentiles is fulfilled, and that's when the Lord is coming back, and He's going to bring them down. So it says in verse 6, it said, well, hold on. Verse 2, it says, when the Lord thy God shall deliver them before thee. See, these people are going to be delivered before thee. It says, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, no show mercy unto them. See, that was from the Lord. So they were in that land, they were inhabiting that land, and then they were cast out. And Israel came in. Let's go to Genesis, the 18th chapter. Back to Genesis. Peace to Sister Mary and Brother Joseph. Genesis, the 18th chapter. Peace to you, Brother Sanders. Genesis, the 18th chapter, and verse 20. Because again, when in situations where He sees that they're sin, he will bring forth judgment. You need to keep that in mind. Genesis, the 18th chapter, and we'll pick it up at verse 20, going back to Abraham. Okay. See, this one who was the father of many nations, who God manifested Himself unto directly, gave him a son. Peace to you, Sister Ruth. This is Genesis, the 18th chapter, and verse 20. What verse 19? He said, for I know him, talking about Abraham. What verse 18? He says, seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation. He said, shall I hide this thing from him that I do? He said, because he's gonna be a great and mighty nation. All the nations of the earth shall be blessed. It said be blessed because of him, right? It said, for I know him that he will command his children and his household after him. And they shall keep the way of the Lord to do justice and judgment, that the Lord may bring upon Abraham that which He hath spoken of him. And the Lord said, because the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grievous, meaning it's terrible, their iniquity. He said, I will go down now and see whether they have done together altogether according to the cry of it, which has come unto me. And if not, I will know. And the men turned their faces. Now, these men are actually angels, okay? Because you had two angels, and then you had the Lord with them, and then those three, that's who Abraham saw. Then those two, they went to Sodom and Gomorrah. And it said the man turned their faces from thence and went toward Sodom. It said, but Abraham stood yet before the Lord. See, the Lord manifested himself directly unto him. Then it says, I'm going to skip down. I'm going to go to Genesis, the 19th chapter, because he goes there to Lot, and Lot is there. Or excuse me, these men go to Sodom and Gomorrah, and Lot is there. Remember that, because Abraham and Lot separated. Then it says in verse, I'm going to just pick it up at verse 11. It says, and they smote the men that were at the door of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they wearied themselves to find the door, because these wicked Sodomites wanted to, they said, bring those men out that came with you, because they're lodging with Lot. They were anxious and bring those men out that we may know them. And they had to smite them with blindness. And they still trying to get at the door, showing you how just degenerate their minds have become. See, he didn't make you to be a sodomite. He didn't make you to be adultery. He didn't make you to be feminine. He didn't make you to be a thief and a murderer. He didn't make you to be that. Okay? That's not what you were made to be. You were made to become God. And when you really wrap your mind around it, it's just certain things you shouldn't do. Okay? So now these men in that degenerate state, they degenerated to such a degree that they trying to basically sleep with these men who they think are men. So they blinded them. They still trying to get at the door. Okay? So it says, and they smote the men that were at the door of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they wearied themselves to find the door. That's just like when you look at the American psyche today, I would say when you talk about homosexuality, they've broken down the door. They've broken down the door. Things will never be the same. They have broken down the door to the point where now things that were totally acceptable 20, 30 years ago, now it's the norm. Now you can't even say it with them. If you got some integrity, you'll call it what it is. It's wickedness. It's wickedness. So now it says, and they smote the men that were at the door of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they wearied themselves to find the door. They didn't find the door in America. They done found the door and pushed the door open, and now everything is acceptable. That's for your wicked self. In your wicked mind. But according to what thus said the Lord, it's abomination. Guess what? It was abomination yesterday. It's an abomination today. It's going to be an abomination, guess what, tomorrow. Regardless of your moral relativism, regardless of your political correctness, it is sin. You can take that, take it or leave it. Really don't care. It says, and the men said unto Lot, hast thou any besides son-in-law? Thy sons and thy daughters, and whatsoever thou hast in the city, bring them out of this place. But we will destroy this place, because the cry of them is waxing great before the face of the Lord, and the Lord has sent us to destroy it. Why? Because it's full of sin. It's full of iniquity. You see what they were trying to do. That's an example. That is an example or an example of just how wicked the place had become. So it says, and Lot went out. So they came to bring judgment. And it says, and Lot went out and spake unto his sons-in-law, which married his daughters, and said, up, get you out of this place, for the Lord will destroy this city. But he seemed as one that mocked unto his sons-in-law. So now that's like, understand. See, there'll be warnings before the destruction comes. So Lot goes unto his sons-in-law. This not here just for good reading. He went to his sons-in-law to warn them about the destruction to come, and they laughed at him. Like, what you talking about? Ain't nothing gonna happen. Like people today think things gonna continue on as they are, but I'm here to tell you it's not gonna be. That is not gonna be. Things about to change. Things about to change. Even when you look at Noah out there, what is he doing? He showed you his faith. The man built an ark. Now, it wasn't no clouds in the sky, so to speak. He's out there building. It wasn't raining. He built an ark, preparing for the rain, telling you it's going to rain. Like that one old gospel song, it's going to rain, it's going to rain. You better get ready, it's going to rain. Come on in the ark, it's going to rain. So now he built an ark, and his Bible tells you he was a preacher of righteousness, and guess what? People not paying attention. But judgment was on the horizon because he said, it repented me that I have made this man, I will destroy him from the face of the earth. Both man and beast. It said, but Noah found grace, and Noah preached. He was a preacher of righteousness, and the people still didn't listen. They didn't hearken unto the words that he spoke. You know that because they didn't get into the ark. But one thing about it, when he got in and the animals got in and his family got in, the Lord shut him in. Why make that point to say the Lord shut him in? Because that meant nobody else was getting in. You better take heed to what you're reading. You better take heed to the messages that certain people are bringing to you. That's what you better do. It'd be wise to do. It behooves you to do. So his sons-in-law was married his daughters and said, oh, get you out of this place, for the Lord will destroy the city. But it seemed as one that mocked unto his sons-in-law. And when the morning arose, and the angels hastened Lot, saying, arise, take thy wife and thy 2 daughters, which are here, lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of the city. You got to get out. And otherwise, you're going to be consumed. You're going to be consumed with the iniquity of the city. You got to get out. So now he goes to escape. He escapes for his life. Then what happens? In verse 24 it says, then the Lord rained upon Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. This is a sign of what he's going to do when he returns. But the Lord's coming back. It says, in flaming fire, taking vengeance on them that know not God and that obey not his gospel. He's coming back in vengeance. He's coming back in wrath. He will show you what he's going to do. This is a sample, a snapshot of what's going to be for this whole world. Because the whole world is full of sin. The whole world is full of iniquity. Verse 25, it says, and he overthrew those cities and all the plain and all the inhabitants of the cities and that which grew upon the ground. So now he brought forth destruction. But then it said, but his wife looked back from behind him, and what happened there? She became a pillar of salt. See, don't look back. When you come out, come on out. Don't try to go back and dwell in the filth, in the muck, in the mire. Come on out. Don't go back. Come on out. So it said, but his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. Let's go to Jonah. Let's go to Jonah quickly. Let's go to Jonah. I'm not going to keep you long. Let's go to Jonah, the first chapter. See, again, over and over again, he shows you that he'll bring forth wrath for sin. And then he will send somebody to tell you about your wickedness. This is Jonah, the first chapter, verse 1. It said, now the word of the Lord came unto Jonah, the son of Amittai, saying, arise, go to Nineveh, that great city, and cry against it. Why? It said, for their wickedness has come up before me. Just like the wickedness that we read about in Genesis. He said, it's coming before me, but he sent him. He said, hey, prophesy to him. No, Jonah didn't want to go, but he ended up going because you can't run from the Lord. You can't run from the Lord. Now let's go to Nahum, because one thing about it, it tells you that the people repented. And the rule of the people wore sackcloth. In Jonah 3 and 5, it says, so the people of Nineveh believed God. They believed the message. So they say, and proclaimed the fast to put on sackcloth from the greatest of them even to the least of them. For word came unto the king of Nineveh, and he arose from his throne, and he laid his robe from him and covered him with sackcloth and sat in ashes. Now, verse 10 said, and God saw their works, that they turned from their evil way, and God repented of the evil that he had said that he would do unto them, and he did it not. But if you keep on reading and you go to Nahum, you see something. Nahum, the second chapter, in verse 13. Because now destruction is coming upon that city, Nineveh. And he says something. He says, behold, verse 13, behold, I am against thee, saith the Lord of hosts, and I will burn her chariots in the smoke, and the sword shall devour thy young lions, and I will cut off thy prey from the earth, and the voice of thy messengers shall no more be heard. He tells you why in the next chapter, in the first verse. He said, woe to the bloody city. It is all full of lies and robbery. The prey departeth not. So you understand, they were wicked. And they continue in their wickedness and their whoredoms and their witchcraft and their false worship. And that's why he brought destruction. But we should understand, brothers and sisters, the whole world is like Sodom and Gomorrah. The whole world is like Nineveh. The whole world is like Babylon in the sense of going after total wickedness. And that's why he's bringing this wrath upon the world. He's bringing a trial period, and he's bringing during the great tribulation to try men. Then he's going to bring destruction. That's what he's going to do. Isaiah, the 24th chapter. Before we go there, let's go to Isaiah, the 13th chapter. Isaiah, the 13th chapter and verse, I'm going to pick it up at verse 9. It says, behold, the day of the Lord cometh. Isaiah 13:9, behold, the day of the Lord cometh cruel, both with wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate. He shall destroy the sinners thereof out of it. He said, and we know what time this is. This is talking about the second coming, because it said, for the stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened in its goings forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine. We read the same thing in Matthew, the 24th chapter. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. We know this is talking about the second coming. And he tells you something. He said, and I will punish the world for their evil and the wicked for their iniquity, and I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease, and will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible. So you think you got some power. You don't really know power. You really don't know power. Then it says, and I will make a man more precious than fine gold, even a man in the golden wedge of Ophir. The brothers say Israel will inherit the earth. They will. But understand, he's going to take even Israel into the wilderness. He's going to purge out the rebels. He do the same thing that he did before. Think about all the people that died when he brought them out in the days of Moses. See, they kicked against leadership. They did what they wanted to do. They walked according to the beat of their own drum, and they sin and they wickedness. Let's make a captain and go back into Egypt. Let's murmur against Moses and Aaron. Let's murmur against the Lord. Boy, get out of here. Get out of here. Get out of here. Don't teach upon what I'm teaching. Isaiah, the 24th chapter. Isaiah, the 24th chapter. He says in verse 4, the earth mourneth and fadeth away, the world languisheth and fadeth away, the hardy people of the earth do languish. The earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof. Why? It said, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant. Therefore hath the curse devoured the earth, and they that dwell therein are desolate. Therefore the inhabitants of the earth are burned, and few men left. That's what's about to happen on the earth. Destruction. Now this is the last place. This is the last place. Revelation, the 18th chapter. Revelation, the 18th chapter. Because here we see Babylon destroyed. But this is future. And no, this is not America right here. But it says something. It says in verse 1 or verse 2, it says, verse 1, it says, and after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and has become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird. Okay? So now we should understand that we understand what Babylon is. Well, we should understand. Babylon is started in Babel. You read about that in Genesis. Okay? That's Babylon. And this is the hub of false worship. When you look at false worship, it basically, all roads lead to Babylon. Okay, when what was started in Babylon and what spread forth throughout the nations is just the same, basically the same version of what took place in Babylon, the same personifications of things in nature, like the sun, the worship of the sun, different various principles. That all started in Babylon. That started in Babylon. And today, in the recent times, it was permeated or perpetuated, the same false worship through Roman Catholicism and the Holy Roman Empire, because that was a two-headed system of leadership. You had the emperor, and then you had the pope. Okay? Just like you're going to have a beast and a false prophet in these last days. So that's going to be destroyed. So you see in the reunification of the Roman Empire today. That's how you know, when you look at it, that's how you know America is going to decline. They got to go be the superpower, because you're going to have powers in the East and you're going to have the powers coming out of Europe. And when you look at Europe, Western Europe, and what is now in the form of the European Union, and they have various treaties to bind them in various ways, that is the reunification of the Holy Roman Empire. And you're going to have who generally call it the Antichrist, the abomination of desolation, the son of perdition, that man of sin. He's going to be coming out of the office of the papacy, off the Pope, from the Pope. Pope's chair, excuse me. So it says in verse 3, it said, for all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. That's talking about the false worship that has been permeated throughout the world through Catholicism. It said, for all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication. But understand what Rome was even called. Rome was even called historically the New Babylon. It was even called that. It says, the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. That's a spiritual fornication. You read about it in Revelation, the 17th chapter. Again, it says, mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. Then it tells you who this is in verse 9 of Revelation 17. 17 and 9 says, and here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. Rome was built on 7 hills. That's not coincidence. That's not just here for good reading, or just some detail you should just look over. So it said, for all nations have, chapter 18 of verse 3, for all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth have waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. All this false worship has meant big business in a lot of ways. Look at Christmas, for example. Look how much money is generated there. That's what Black Friday is all about. Black Friday is the time in which... It's not because they were selling Negroes on that. Black Friday, talking about economically, that's when these businesses going to black, because they was in the red all year up until that point. Now people going to spend some money in honor of this false worship. So it said in verse 4, and I heard another voice a voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not her plagues. So you got to come out of Babylon, spiritually speaking. You got to come out. You should not deal with the false worship. So come out of that system. It says, for her sins have reached unto heaven. Just like the cup of iniquity reached its brim in the days of the Amorites' downfall. Just like in the days of Nineveh, just like in the days of Sodom and Gomorrah, this world's going to have its day. It said, for her sins have reached unto heaven, and God have remembered her iniquities. Okay? So now you get to a point where now destruction is coming. So that is the principle, and the universal principle that you see over and over and over again. I want you to consider America and the country you live in. How in the world can it continue on with such iniquity within it? How you kill 60 million babies and think it's gonna keep going as it has always gone? How you treat God's people to the point where they making songs called Strange Fruit because you lynching them? 246 years of slavery. Some people say, yeah, the Lord brought us into slavery. He did, but what it said about them, they helped forward the affliction. It was so bad. When you really dig down deeper in the history of what this country has done to black people, when you castrate men and hanging them on trees, and it's a business venture to set up cameras and take pictures and send them as postcards. Look at this country. Look at how it's treated God's people, because Israel is the so-called Negro, if you didn't know. You look at that. You look at what was done to the indigenous. You look at the culture from America that is pushed throughout the world, the hypersexualization. You make homosexuality, same-sex marriage. Now, this is the first institution put forth by God, the institution of marriage, and you go between a man and a woman to bring forth children. You're going to say, no, 2 men and 2 women can be married. You think you're going to continue on? You're deceiving yourself. Your power will soon end. Your high status will soon be made low. It will be abased. You can't continue doing what you're doing and think everything's going to be all right. With that, brothers and sisters, I want to remind you not to teach over what I'm saying. Don't teach over what I'm saying. We at the Household of Faith meet every Sabbath at 5925 West 25th Avenue in Gary, Indiana, at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. We live stream right here on the Israel Teach YouTube channel, as well as at www.israelteach.org. If you've been edified through the message, you can leave a donation at our website. Again, israelteach.org, www.israelteach.org. 100% of the proceeds go to the work of the ministry, not in our pockets. We don't get paid. I'll be out in Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, and I'm going to put the dates up soon, and I'll put it on the website as well, the 25th to the 28th. And what else? Yeah, I'll give you those dates and the locations that we'll be at. Brother Elbert and his wife are out there, some more people. And so if you're in that area, you can contact us, and we'll come out and hear the word. All praise to the Most High, and peace to everybody that's listening. Thank you for your time.